Also from Gen FKD, here for another episode of Bookstr Business. I'm joined by another David. Hi, David Bach. How you doing?
I love it. We got David Squared here.
David Squared. David is a prolific author. In fact, he's holding his most recent book, Smart Women Finish Rich. Also, Smart Couples Finish Rich, which was published how long ago and then republished?
Yeah, well, so this book came out, I think it's 13, 14 years ago. We put it back out as an update in January and came here and did a show, so maybe you saw me. And now Smart Women Finish Rich is coming out for its 20-year anniversary edition, completely revised and updated. And this book is hitting stores on the 18th. So we're like breaking, we're breaking in here. We're like, this is the starting spot.
So, without giving away too much of the book, how do smart women finish rich?
Yeah, well, look, we'll give away as much of this book as we can. So the whole concept with Smart Women Finish Rich, I learned about money from my grandmother. And she started investing at 30. She was broke. She was living paycheck to paycheck. She lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She sold wigs at Gimbel's department store. And at 30, she decided she didn't want to be poor anymore. And so she started learning how to invest. And over her lifetime, she passed the lessons of investing on to my father and myself and my sister. And the whole family entered the investment business. And my grandmother became a self-made millionaire. She helped me buy my first stock at 7. And I started teaching classes 20 years ago for women and money, specifically to help you as a woman at home take charge of your finances. So whether you're married, widowed, single, divorced, you need to be in charge of your own money. You need to know what's going on with the family finances. And it starts by knowing where the money is. So like literally the first part of this book is a find the money quiz, which goes through asking you a series of like 17 questions to help you discover, do you actually know where all your money is? Do you know where the IRA accounts and the 401k plans are? Do you know what the money's earning in these accounts? Do you know where the insurance is? Do you know where the wills are? Literally everything that you need to know about money, I put it in this book. And the reason this is so important is this. The average age of widowhood when I first wrote this book, and there's been 1 million copies of this book so far out. This is one of the most popular books for women and money ever written. When I wrote this book originally, the average age of widowhood was 56, which just blew my mind away. People behind me, this camera, are shaking their heads. The average age of widowhood's gone up. It's 59 now. If you're a woman and you're married, 80% of women die widowed. And 80%...
Whoa, 80%?
Yeah, 80% of men die married. So when I first wrote this book, I was out there teaching women, like, look, eventually you're going to manage the money. The time to know about it is now. What's changed, especially with millennials and women today, is that today's woman wants to be in charge of her finances. But there are still many of you who are not taking charge of it. And so that's my goal with this book, is to empower millennials, the next generation, and anybody who might not be doing it yet to truly control your financial future. And this is a step-by-step financial planning book that walks you through how to be in charge of your money.
So we have an audience question already, man. That was fast.
Love it.
Your books are consistently bestsellers, and you've become known as America's most trusted financial advisors. Is it daunting to be considered an expert on such a complex subject?
That's almost like I just wrote that. That's a great question. It's not daunting, and I'll tell you why. I literally bought my first stock at age 7. I'm a complete financial geek. So my dad was a stockbroker. I started going to his office at 3. Like back in the day when there was a ticker tape. You don't even know what probably a ticker tape is.
It appears on screens now, going under with the price of stock.
Yeah, now there's this thing with phones. But ticker tapes, literally there used to be a ticker tape where the stock quote came off a piece of paper. And the only way you could know what a stock was trading at was to go to a brokerage office and tear the piece of paper off and get a stock quote. So I have been in this business my entire life. I'm 51. I started going to my dad's investment classes at 9. And I came in the investment business in 1993. I started teaching classes for women in 1994 before anybody was doing it. And so this is just like I live and I sleep and I breathe this stuff. But the beauty of having now done 12 books and going all over the country for 2 decades teaching people about money is I get asked lots of questions. And so, as an example, I was not a debt expert, right? Like I didn't used to work with a lot of people who had credit card debt because I worked at Morgan Stanley. But then I did all these Oprah shows. And then Oprah said to me, can you do a show on helping America get out of debt? And so I quickly got to become an expert by helping people get out of debt. So what's been fun over these 20 years is if I don't know something, I'm in this great position to go learn it quickly and then share it. But most of what I teach, I've been doing it for 25 to 30 years now.
So David, let's go back in time. So back when you were first decided to teach women about money,
Yeah.
not a lot of people were doing it. Why at the time did you feel that was important, and why is it still important?
So here's what happened. Two things happened that changed my whole life. And they all happened within 30 days. I started in the investment business, and in a 30-day period of time, alongside my father, he was mentoring me. We had 3 women whose husbands died, 2 of them suddenly. And my father was doing meetings with widows, talking to them about how to read the brokerage statement, how to read it, understand it, know where the income was going to come from, and write checks.
Okay.
And because again, average age of widowhood is 59. And I thought, I want to get in front of this issue with our women clients. I'm going to teach a seminar for our women clients. At the exact same time I was thinking this, my mom's best friend went through a divorce, and she was financially devastated. And so I started looking at all the studies, and I was like, women are getting hurt financially by divorce, and your standard of living goes down in some cases by 50% after a divorce. Men's standard of living goes up, and women goes down. And then I was looking at the issue of widowhood, and I thought, I'm going to create a class. This is Lafayette, California. I'm going to create a class, and I'm going to invite my women clients and see how it goes. That was 1994. We have classes today being taught all over the country, and we've done this for 2 decades. We've had over 500,000 women go through classes that financial advisors teach that aren't even me. We just rolled out Smart Women, Smart Retirement last week. We're about to roll these seminars out nationwide. We have classes that were done last week and this week in Houston, Seattle, Los Angeles, Topeka, Kansas. So, it's exciting because women come to these seminars without men in the room, and they're able to open up and ask questions and share stories and come together on a topic that often intimidates. By the way, it intimidates men, but a lot of women go, I don't know what questions to ask. That's very much where this...
We don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know, and I think that's very much what people tell me when they read this book, is they're like, okay, well, now I get it. Even people who have financial advisors are like, I don't understand what he's saying. And then they read this book, and they can go back into their financial advisor's office and ask better questions and make sure they have the right financial advisor, because that's key too.
So the whole idea of finish, right?
Yeah.
When are we ever done financially?
Oh my God, it's such a good question, right? Because people go, finish rich. First of all, how much money does that mean? And by the way, it's different for everybody.
And it changes constantly because of inflation.
It changes constantly. There's no magic number, right? Like, I will tell you that 99% of Americans don't have $1 million yet. No. So that's a great number to shoot for, to get started with. But what I talk about in the book, all my books, is that it's your values first. What's most important to you? And that finishing rich is really actually about living rich. And I don't want you to put off your whole life waiting for retirement. I actually want you to save money for the things you want to do today. And so in Smart Women Finish Rich, we've got all of money broken into 3 baskets. Retirement basket, what do you need to do for retirement? Security, what do you need to do to protect yourself? Cover everything, life insurance, wills, all the things that are critical for protection of you and your family. And then the dream account, which is what do you put money aside for between now and retirement, right? Those are your dreams.
That's amazing. What's your writing routine?
Oh.
That's another audience question. How do you get the discipline to sit down and write all this stuff?
So here's how, I call it the millionaire morning. Here's what I do. I wake up at 5.
Oh, goodness.
And I have written 12 books in the morning between the hours of 5 o'clock and noon. So I'm a morning writer.
Are you a natural morning person, or is that an adaptation?
You know what? I was not a morning person in college. I learned how to be a morning person literally the moment I graduated, because my first job I had to be in the office at 5:45. So I have been getting up since 4:30 to 5 o'clock now, most days for the bulk of my life. I'm up at 5. I meditate. I work out. I take my kids to school, and I'm in the office. And on writing, during my writing time frames, I have a very simple live longer than men do. You need to have a third more in savings for retirement, because your retirement's going to be 10, 15 to 20 years longer than the man in your life. That hasn't changed. In fact, it's getting harder for you because you live longer. The second thing that hasn't changed is that you have less money saved for retirement. On average, you have a third less saved for retirement than men do, because you're still taking time off to have children. And in many cases now, this was not happening 20 years ago, but now today's woman is being impacted by her parents getting sick, and it's almost always the daughter who takes care of mom or dad. And so the average woman is taking 11 and a half years off for childbearing and for parent care.
Wow.
And that's impacting your retirement. So that's sort of the bad news. It hasn't changed a whole lot. What has changed for women on the positive note, there are more women millionaires than ever before. Like 43% of the millionaires in America are women today. Women are almost controlling now more wealth than men. In the next 20 years with wealth transition, of which there's 20 to 30 trillion dollars of wealth that will go from one generation to the next, or from the husband who dies to the wife, women will control the bulk of wealth, certainly in America. More women graduate from college today than men do, and their earnings are much higher than they've ever been. And we have many families today where the woman's earning more than the husband. In like almost half of households today, it's women that are the financial bread earners, bread leaders. So those are kind of things about women and money. What's changed from an investment standpoint, technology's changed everything, right?
Course.
So like the list of the fund companies and the financial service companies and the financial service apps, all the technology that it takes to manage your money, track where your money's going, it's all new. That's what's covered in the book, and it's all easier. You know, like the good news is it's easier to manage your money today than it's ever been. I talk about the fact that most people can automate their financial life in less than an hour. It's easier to find a good financial advisor than it's ever been. So
is that because of transparency?
It's because of transparency. You know, 20 years ago, you would go and meet with financial advisors. You couldn't go to Google and look them up and find out if there was any complaints.
It was basically word of mouth, correct?
It was, and there were places you could go, but there were websites you could go to check out their background. But today, you can not only go to and I list the websites in the book on how to check out a financial advisor, but there weren't a lot of types of financial advisors. There was like, you went to a financial advisor, and for the most part, they were a commission-based financial advisor. And I used to talk about fee-based advisors, why you should hire a fiduciary. And 20 years ago, that was like a completely new concept. Today, most quality advisors are registered investment advisors. They shouldn't have a conflict of interest. Shouldn't be moving your money around for commissions. You should be paying a flat fee on assets. And a lot of firms, the cost of managing money is going down. So everything's getting less expensive. 401k plans are less expensive. Mutual funds are less expensive. Exchange traded mutual funds, like 20 years ago.
Isn't even a basic trade, that used to cost money.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. There are mutual funds today that now are like no cost.
Yeah, JP Morgan Chase I think it's zero if you're a bank there.
And Fidelity rolled out an index fund recently that is no cost. And there are robo-advisors. So, what I did with the book was like bring it up to date and share you, like, here's all the latest technologies, all the latest firms, latest phone numbers, websites, etc.
So we have a couple audience questions here. What is the hardest thing to teach about finance?
The most important thing to teach, and it probably is the hardest, is that the tortoise approach to building wealth is actually the best approach to building wealth. The approach to building wealth, where I say to you, you truly need to have a diversified portfolio. It needs to be a boring investment plan.
Boring?
You need to have...
Is boring good?
When it comes to money, boring is best. You want to have your money diversified between stocks and bonds, and I explain all that in the book. You don't want to try to get rich quick. And the sad thing is that so often people try to get rich quick, spend their whole life being broke. And every 10 years, there's something else out there, the shiny bell that's hot. Right now, it's cryptocurrency. And you've got people losing just everything in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, as an example, $600 billion of value has been wiped out in cryptocurrency. And unlike the stock market, where people go, well, just hold on to it, it'll come back, most of those won't come back. So one of the things I spent a lot of time on the book is understanding, like, when markets go down, how to get through down markets, because markets always recover. And the key to building wealth is it's decades, not days.
So if it's too good to be true, it probably is?
If it's too good to be true, it always is.
Ah, there we go.
If it's too good to be true, it always is. If you've heard about some miracle opportunity, trust me, there's no miracle opportunities.
So let's go back to what we were talking about originally, your grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did she inspire you to pursue this type of life?
She really got me excited about investing. It's so weird. I didn't plan on going into this business. I went into real estate. right out of college.
But it's similar. It's
similar, but I thought, I thought I'm going to be in real estate. I was in commercial leasing. I was making a bunch of money, and I was teaching my friends in the office how to invest. And my dad was like, why don't you just try this business? You'd be a great financial advisor. And he literally spent like 2 years just dripping on me. And then I came in the business, and really what I loved doing from day one was teaching. So my dad built his business teaching, and I started teaching classes. And then I had that moment, where I think a lot of entrepreneurs have those moments where I was like, man, if I could just teach, I would love to just teach. And so when I wrote Smart Women Finish Rich, I just kept thinking, how could I teach 1 million people about money and do that full time? And that led to my media company, Finish Rich Media. And I moved to New York in 2001, right after 9/11. I had made the decision to leave Morgan Stanley, which was, people thought I was crazy. It was crazy, actually, because I had been there 9 years and I had a totally built up career. I came here, I didn't know anybody, on a wing and a prayer with my wife to try to go teach more people about money. And then it worked. And now today I own another financial service company. I'm a co-founder of a company called A Wealth Management. We started that 36 months ago, even less than 36 months ago, and we are one of the fastest growing RIAs in America. And we have hundreds of advisors around the country, and it's been a fun journey. The entrepreneurial journey is never over.
Was it easy, David?
It was not easy. It's funny. It's never easy. It's still not easy. I've been up since 4:30, and I've been doing. You're like my fourth place to do media, and this is what I did 20 years ago. And people go, how do you get best-selling books? How do you keep doing? How do you keep it all out there? And I never stop, right? So I think this is my 290th interview in 12 months. You want to spread the message, you got to go out and work. People don't get to find out about you unless you go out and you sell it, and you work it, and you do what this is right now. So,
well, you're very good at pitching and selling, and you definitely have the zest of not just an author, of an entrepreneur as well. In another life, part of my life is interviewing entrepreneurs, and you're like the author entrepreneur. Yep. Yeah. How'd you get those skills? Was it practice? Was it learning in real time? Because a lot of people are great writers, but they don't know how to sell what they're writing.
So I will tell you, anything you want to do in life is figure-outable. You should write that down. Anything you want to do in life is figure-outable. Somebody has already done what you want to do, almost always. So I wanted to be a best-selling author. I went out and studied best-selling authors. Before I was a best-selling author, I wanted to be one of the top financial advisors in the country. I went out and studied them. I have always gone out to and I learned this from Tony Robbins. It's called model the masters.
Okay.
Right? So you figure out who's doing what you want to do in anything that you want to go and do, and you study them. And I am a constant active learner. I have been going to other programs. I read probably 100 books a year. I probably spend $50,000 a year still going to seminars.
So you don't stop.
I don't stop. I'm still learning. And and then over time, anybody who's successful never stops learning. And whenever I catch myself getting frustrated that I don't know something, I remind myself, I just need to go learn it. One of the key things I've realized in life, and this is a good one too, like a little nugget, is that when you think you don't know something, instead of saying, well, I don't know how to do this, you add the word yet. This came from Simon Sinek, who I met Simon before we even had a book. And I saw this with him. I'm like, oh my God, Simon's brilliant. Because if you add the word yet to something that you don't know how to do, then you have to go, well, okay, it's all figure-outable. Where would I go learn it? So that's part of my secret to success.
So you talk about women in that book. You talk about couples in this book. What's the difference? What are the different principles? I'm about to get married.
He's about to get married. So it's so funny. What happened is I wrote this book. I put my email in the back of the book. Back in the day when I had an AOL email. Don't use that email. It doesn't work anymore. And women started writing me and saying, this book's amazing, but I can't get my boyfriend or my husband to read it. And then I started having people in the same-sex relationships saying the same thing. Read the book, can't get my husband or my girlfriend to read it. What do I do? And I was married. And my wife and I worked together at Morgan Stanley, and we were fighting over money. And so I printed this long letter from a reader talking about fighting with her husband about money. And she took I showed her this letter. I'm like, I'm getting so many of these letters. And she took the letter and she threw it back at me, and she's like, you should write that book because we could use it. And it's like, I tell that story in Smart Couples Finish Rich, but the classic thing was, I went, okay, because we're financial advisors and we're fighting over money. And fighting over money is the #1 cause of breakups and divorce. And so even though we were financial advisors and it should have been easy for us, we were not doing it right at the time. And what I realized, and this was the beauty of being a financial advisor, was I'm like, well, it's figure outable. I have all these clients who have been married 20, 30, 40 years. They've done well financially, and they're happily married. And I also have people who have been divorced 2 or 3 times. So I need to go study the people who have been happily married. Happily was the key thing. Like, do they come in my office at 60 and they're still holding hands and they're excited about their life? What did they do differently? And that's what led to Smart Couples Finish Rich. It literally was, okay, this is what successful couples do so that I could model it and then you could model it. Smart couples, you've got to work as a team on your finances. And the problem with money is if you don't work together as a team with common financial goals, together, where you're basically in that boat, you're oaring together, or you know, I always say, like, football is my example. Like, if you're not working together, you're working against each other. The problem with money for couples is that money, it never stops, right? Like, every few weeks the bills come in. You're always spending money. And if money is a source of tension in your relationship, it gets worse and worse and worse. So
even if your income goes up as you get older?
You know what? That's people go, oh, well, if I make more money, it'll all be fine. It'll work its way out. When people make more money, for the most part, unless they actually have a financial plan and they do things right, they just spend more money.
Oh boy.
And often, so it's all about couples getting on the same page, working together. And when you do that, you're unstoppable. You got to be on the same team as a couple when it comes to your money.
That's an interesting point you bring up, David. So even couples without a revenue problem a lot of times have trouble fight over money anyway, even if they're making tons and tons and tons of money.
Let me tell you a little secret that entrepreneurs never talk about. Actually, I don't even know if entrepreneurs realize it. You get an entrepreneur where they have an exit. Not an exit in their 20s or 30s, because an exit being that you sold the business, but when you do your entrepreneurship.
Sure, of course.
You get somebody who sells their business in their 50s, which is very common. Late 50s, you know, even early 60s.
Okay.
And finally, all this money comes in.
Sure.
Almost inevitably, 50, 60, 70% get divorced.
What?
And you go, why would that happen? It's because that entrepreneur often didn't spend time with the family and told the wife, you know what, or it could be the opposite, but usually it's the man, you know what, we're going to finally have all this money and then we're going to do what we want to do. And by the time that day comes, she's like, you know what, I haven't seen you for 25 years.
I don't know who you are anymore.
And now there's money, so great. I'll take my half and go have a nice life. The largest segment of people getting divorced now is over the age of 55.
Wow.
So money doesn't fix financial problems the way you would think it does. What fixes financial problems is actually having a financial plan where the way your money is in your life helps you have the life you want. And I give examples in this book too of couples that, you know, come to me and they want to retire and they've never talked about what their life would look like in retirement.
They have no idea? I have a feeling, I mean, especially around here in New York, David, I feel like people don't even want to retire. They just work all the time. I don't think they even know.
Also because in New York you have to work all the time. You know, also New York is a young person's game. But here's what I can tell you, because again, I travel around the country for people who have retired, and if you're older and you're thinking of retirement, I will tell you that retirement is like some of the best years of people's lives. And the happiness research is showing that between the age of 60 and 75, and you don't actually have to retire with a lot of money to be happy. Like between the age of 60 and 75, people who are retiring, who have time and health and enough money to enjoy their life are super happy.
Well, that's good to know. So it wasn't high school, wasn't the best time of life. It's retirement.
Well, it's actually, so it's the interesting, it's that time in high school, college, where we're surrounded by friends and we have time to do what we want to do. And then it's later in life.
I've read that
There's
before.
a lot of pressure between the ages of 30 and 50. Those are the high stress decades, because you know you get married, you have kids, you have a lot of overhead, and it's stressful. And then finally it starts to become less stressful.
Okay, this is a good way to. This is another good question here. What do you do with people who are intimidated by numbers?
Oh, I take the numbers and I make them simple. So if you can go from 1 to 10, if you can do that kind of math, you're fine. You know, I hated math in school. In fact, I got through about geometry. Like, here's basic math. You make $1, you need to keep 10 cents.
Okay.
Basic math, right? Like, pay yourself first, super simple. 10 cents out of every dollar, if you start there, you're gonna be in great shape. You put 10 cents away for retirement, 5 cents away for emergencies, 5 cents away for your dreams. It's 20 cents out of every dollar. Now, the average person takes about 3 cents of every dollar and sets it aside.
Yikes.
Many people make $1 and they spend $1.10.
That's even worse.
It is worse. It's what leads to over 1.5 million people being bankrupt a year. But the interesting thing about money is that you don't have to know a lot about numbers to actually be super successful financially.
Interesting. How about people with student debt? And women are more educated than men now. And
yeah. So student debt is such a big problem in this country, and that's a huge thing that's changed from 20 years ago. There's over $1 trillion now in student debt. It's brutal. You have to really think through. If you're not in college yet and you're thinking about going to college, you have to really deeply prepare for, are you going to borrow money? How much are you going to borrow? And is it worth it? There are a lot of ways to go through school and not have it be so expensive. You can go to community college for the first and second year. You can go to state schools. But coming out of college with 6 figures in debt is just, it's the kind of weight that can destroy people's lives. And so if you unfortunately have, average person has $30,000 in credit card debt. I mean, sorry, not credit card debt, student loan debt. You have to really get clear on how to pay that debt down, what the rate is, and what the process is by how to get that debt paid off. But don't think you need to pay your student loans off first before you save and invest. Because if you do, if you wait to use your 401k plan or an IRA account or even buy a home until you've paid your student loans off, you won't get into the game of building wealth until you're in your late 30s or 40s. And that's a huge mistake. You don't want to do that.
Wow. Yeah, that was a question I had the other day with my good friend. He has a significant amount of student debt, and he still puts 10% of his income in his 401k.
He's totally doing it right.
Really?
He must have read The Automatic Millionaire. He's totally doing it right.
Really?
Yep.
And that's because?
Because you need the miracle of compound interest to start when you're young. That means your money will grow faster over time, and he's doing it totally right. And ultimately, his student loans rates could be low, too. It might be 4, 3, or 4%.
They're pretty high. They're grad school rates. They're more like in the 7s.
Okay, he's still doing the right thing. And also, when he's matching his 401k plan, when he's putting money in his 401k plan, he's probably getting a match, which is free money.
Yes.
So they may be putting 3% extra into that plan.
Of course.
And that's money you don't want to pass up.
Of course. You can't pass up that matching. Yeah. Of course not. So not to market any other books, David, but before we leave this show, what other books inspired you? Okay,
I'm going to tell you about a book right now that's coming out that it blew my mind away. It's called Thirst. I had to stop for a second. So the book is called Thirst. It's from Scott Harrison. It's about the creation of Charity Water, which is one of my favorite charities. Charity Water has helped bring water, which is the most important thing that we all take for granted here, certainly in America, to villages in Africa where they don't have water. And 8.5 million people have now been given clean water. The number one reason millions of people die every year is because they don't have clean water. So Charity Water has raised $300 million. Scott Harrison started this incredible charity. I met him here in New York when it was an idea. When it was an idea on a napkin. And it gives me chills because he just put this book out, and it's called Thirst. I read the book cover to cover. I was actually on a flight to Africa. I went to Africa this summer, and it gave me tears. And what the book did is it's his story of how he created this charity, but it inspired me to want to do more with my life, involving myself in charities. I've donated money to Charity Water I always donate money from books to charities. And Charity Water was who I donated money to from a book I wrote called Start Over, Finish Rich. But it made me, he had this thing in this book he talked about called, he decided to tie the year of his life. And I don't want to give the whole book away. It's so good. Go get the book.
Thirst.
Yeah, Thirst.
And for us who are thinking about money all the time and whatnot, what should we do? What's your easy advice? You seem to have a lot of good quotes that we can splice from this.
I mean, look, so first thing, go read The Automatic Millionaire. Even though we're here talking about smart women finish rich, The Automatic Millionaire is this little book that you can read in 90 minutes, and it tells you basically everything you need to know about money to get your life going. Know this, $5 a day can change your life. I call it the latte factor.
The latte factor.
So the latte factor
I remember that.
is this idea that people go, I can't save any money, I can't do this now, I've got to wait. And if you can get started with $5 a day saving money, you can have $1 million by the time you reach retirement. If you save $10 a day, it's better. $20 a day is even better. But the latte factor is a metaphor for where's your money going and what do you have to give up to get up. So I'm not trying to take your coffee away, but I have coffee every day. I'm a coffee addict, but I have coffee at home for like 15 cents or 20 cents, right? I make my coffee at home. But a lot of you are having coffee for $5. And it might not be coffee, it might be a bottle of water or cigarettes or a gym membership that you don't use. You got to go through your expenses and go, what could I give up to get up? And that's a really critical component of building wealth. You have to save. If you don't save money, you'll never have any money.
David, that is excellent advice. David Bach, author of Smart Women Finish Rich and also Smart Couples Finish Rich and The Automatic Millionaire, among others. Thank you so much for joining us.
David, thank you. This is a blast. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon.